June 10th, 2011, in Kandahar, Afghanistan. It was the kind of night when you can see every single star in the sky because there are no city lights anywhere. At the top of an unmanned guard tower, I sank to the floor, desperately thinking about ending my life. The pain was unbearable. The isolation was deafening. And the only vacillation was whether I should slip my wrists, jump off this watchtower, or just shoot myself. At 24 years old, I was a respected military intelligence officer in the United States Army. And I was one of the women chosen to serve on one of the first female engagement teams, the Army's first experiment putting women in deliberate ground combat in big Army history. But on this night, I didn't feel very special or fortunate. By all accounts, I was a resilient, strong, hardworking leader. In nobody's mind was I at risk of suicide. And yet, here I sat, calculating the risks. In truth, I was lost in transition, failing to adapt at a rate that could keep up with the changes that I was experiencing. You see, before I became a proud officer in the United States Army, I was this adorable, all-American girl, born a third-generation member of a religious sex cult, the Children of God. My mother was born there too, and she gave birth to me when she was barely 15 years old. The man responsible was nearly 3 decades older. I grew up living in walled communes with hundreds of people hidden throughout Asia, South America, and Mexico. As children, we sang and danced on the streets for money to survive, and we didn't go to school because we were important soldiers in the end-time army of God, brought here to prepare all of you for the end of the world. The cult leader, corrupted by power and exercising complete mind control, created an environment of twisted religious beliefs where prostitution and pedophilia became the will of God. As children, we suffered physical, sexual, and religious abuse. When I was 15, I escaped that life thanks to a few good women, and straight out of a commune in Mexico, I landed in a completely foreign country, the great state of Texas. I felt all alone. Imagine your 15-year-old self stranded in a brand new country with no money and no context for a normal life. How's that for a rough transition? I want to see if any of you have ever experienced transition before. So put your hands up if you've ever left a cult. So one of my 24 siblings sitting up front, thank you. Put them up if you've ever left, joined, or married the military. How many of us have left a bad relationship behind? Maybe you've left home for school, school for work, or even moved in with someone? Have you ever had a child, or even lost a parent? Now, with just a few examples, we've seen almost every hand in this room go up. Can we agree that we all experience some sort of transition? Transition is hard, always. It's high stakes, high stress. It's easy to fail. There's a risk of getting so lost in transition that you never make it out sane. There's a secret that I learned in the Army the day I had to navigate through dark woods in the rain. And the secret is that when you're lost, you need a compass. When I first left the cult, I didn't realize I was lost because I was so focused on the trees right in front of me. Food, clothing, school. I didn't have time for big picture thinking. I was living moment to moment. I put my head down. I threw myself into excellence. I entered into high school and fought my way through college, not realizing that I was failing to connect with the people around me. I had a completely different language, culture, and sense of community. I think when I commissioned into the Army, I was still searching for community and a sense of purpose, the way that I'd had growing up, even if it was twisted. In 2011, when I picked my head back up at war, I was all alone. In 2011, I had just lost friends at war. In 2011, I was a sexual assault survivor living on a combat base, a sexually charged, dangerous environment for women. While I might have looked perfect on the outside, inside, I was a scared, sad 6-year-old girl, reliving old traumas and going through new ones. That night, I decided to keep living for one more day. That was all I could do. And when I got home from war, it didn't get better, it got worse. That's when I decided that I needed a way to navigate towards my future, or I wasn't going to have one. And that's when I found the first point on my compass: people. I needed to connect, to reach out and let others in. At one of my low points, I shared some thoughts with a new friend. His answer was what I needed to hear. Get over yourself, Daniella. You're not as different as you think you are. Years later, I told him his tough love saved my life and taught me something crucial. No matter who we are or where we come from, we all experience the same emotions under the surface, and we all die without connection. So I began to reach out, to authentically care about others. Magically, they cared about me too, and they understood me. They became my guides through the woods. But just because I found people doesn't mean I knew where I was going. I still hadn't aligned my compass to true north. I needed a purpose, which happens to be point number 2. This time my purpose needed to come from inside me, not be dictated to me the way that cult leaders or even army generals had done in the past. So I went to war again and came home. I married a special operations helicopter pilot, so he transitions in and out of the home all the time. We had a beautiful baby, and I left the military. I'm one of those that had a fantastic corporate job before my army paycheck even stopped. And I was miserable there and so bad at my job. No matter how much surface success you have, you'll be lost in transition until you can align yourself with a purpose that means more than yourself, a purpose that gets you excited to get out of bed in the morning. I left the corporate world to find my purpose. My purpose is spreading a message, speaking, writing, and consulting within companies. I woke up knowing that I could use my unique background to help business owners in an expanded way, to unlock the DNA of strong organizations and help them learn how to build the cultures that drive them as a force for good. That's what I get to do now on a daily basis. Starting my own consulting business brought me to the third piece in my compass, to my process. Now you know who you are, you know where you're going. Process is just how you get there. And let me tell you, the process of finding your process is a process. So don't rush it. In business, I've been able to use all of the pieces that I've learned throughout my journey. First, I connected with the right people, and those people connect me with others. Connecting with people is why I'm standing here today. Those people became my feedback loop, keeping me supported, engaged, and thriving. They keep me on my purpose, and they help me refine my process. Today, I'm happy to say that I've kicked suicide's ass. I've also learned that transition is never over, not as long as you're alive. There will always be growth, change, and adjustment. It's not like you either have a bad life or a good life. It's a journey, not a destination. Today, when people hear that I grew up in a cult, they ask me why I'm not more brainwashed. My answer: you should have seen me 16 years ago. I really was a mess. Today, folks tell me that as an army wife or a business leader, I just seem to have it all together. But that's because you're not sitting on my front porch with me every night the first time Tom deploys, gracefully sipping wine, crying with so much fear. But I take out my compass, I rediscover my people, redefine my purpose, and use those processes to fight my way through transition once again. I challenge you to imagine a world where a little girl from a cult can grow up to be a captain in the army and create a new way to serve humanity through building cultures of connection, not difference. And know that you too can find your people, your purpose, and your processes for success. I can promise you that if a soldier who's been to war, who's lost loved ones and still suffers, can go on to be a loving wife, a mother, a business owner, and a meaningful voice for a community that maybe hasn't found theirs yet, you too can navigate the woods of transition. I can promise you that the next time you find yourselves lost in transition, here's the compass that will bring you home.